Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to lesson 40. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at what is traditionally known as verbs of praise, blame, and wonder in Arabic. Now, as you may know, this is our final lesson of the course. And at the beginning of this course, I asked you to set your intentions so that you could maximize the benefit that you get from going through this course. And so for many of you, that intention may have been the hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. You shouldn't even need the translation at this point, but it's the best of you is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it. So now that you're nearing the completion of this course, this should be a reminder for us to actually read the Quran on a regular basis, engage with the text and try to understand it and reflect upon it, but then also teach our knowledge. So teach the Arabic that you have learned to somebody else. It could be a family member, or it could be a friend, or it could be someone else altogether. But to keep passing this knowledge on so we can all benefit from this hadith. All right, with that, let's go ahead and start our lesson. So our lesson is on verbs of praise, blame, and wonder. And basically the way to look at this is that there are certain words in Arabic. So for example, Nyama, it's a verb, but it's not really like grammatically like a verb in the sense that it actually means how good is something. Similarly, you have a word like Besa, how evil is something. And then you have a more generic version of this, ma followed by a verb which just means how extreme is something or how amazing is something. We'll get to that. But we'll go through each of these three words and understand how they work in Arabic and in the Quran. So we're starting off with Nyama, which means how good is something or how excellent is something. The first thing to note is that although Nyama is considered a verb in Arabic, it actually does not conjugate. So it'll always be in this form Nyama. Okay, it doesn't change based on the number of people, the tense, or anything like that. It is followed by either a noun in the marfu'a case or a phrase beginning with ma. So let's just take an example to make this super clear. Ni'ma darul muttaqin. How excellent is the dwelling of the muttaqin, of the God-fearing. So you'll see here ni'ma appears at the beginning of a sentence. The thing that ni'ma is describing appears after it. In this case, is dar, the dwelling, and of course it's in marfu'a case. And then al-muttaqin is the dwelling of the muttaqin or of the God-fearing. Okay. So the opposite of ni'ma would probably be the word Besa. So Besa means how evil is something. And like ni'ma, it does not conjugate. Although there is a similar word that you should also know in Arabic called sa'a, which also means how evil or how terrible is something. And that does actually conjugate. Okay, so that's worth keeping in mind. So Besa means how evil, sa'a means how evil. Besa does not conjugate. It's kind of like ni'ma. Sa'a does, so it can become sa'at and so on. And also, just like ni'ma, Besa and sa'a are followed by nouns in the marfu'a case or a phrase beginning with ma. So in here, for example, we see the example of a second, of a phrase beginning with ma. Bi'sa mashtaraw bihi anfusahum. How evil is what they have sold themselves for. So how evil is what they have purchased with their souls or with themselves. Okay. Now, a more general version of this is just having the word ma followed by a verb. So this allows you to say, how extreme is he in any sort of way. So for example, we see one example here, ma akfarahu, how ungrateful he is. So the ma in this case is yet another way that ma can be used in the Arabic language. In this case, ma here means how ungrateful is he. Now, usually with this, the verb has to be in the af'ala pattern, or it can be in the af'al pattern. So for example, we see in this verse, abusir bihi wa ismi', how well he sees and hears. Abusir, in this case, would be translated as how well he sees and how well he hears. Okay, with that, we can actually jump into our exercises. So this was a pretty short lesson that we're concluding with. Let's just do these exercises to practice what we've learned. Ni'ma ajrul amilin. How excellent is the reward of those who do good deeds. That's kind of determined by the context here. Sa'a sabila. So here we have sa'a, which we said means how evil. Sa'a sabila, how evil of a path. Maybe that would be how you could translate it. How evil a path. Bi'sa sharabu wa sa'at murtafaqa. This is an interesting verse that uses both bi'sa and sa'a. Bi'sa is not conjugated, but sa'a is. It became sa'at. So what an evil drink and a terrible resting place. Murtafaqa means like a resting place. Ishtarau bihi thamanan qalilan fa bi'sa ma yashtarun. So this is a good example that shows that bi'sa doesn't have to appear at the beginning of a sentence or of an ayah. Ishtarau bihi thamanan qalila. So they have purchased for it, or they have exchanged it. Perhaps we could say, or they have exchanged it for a small gain, or like a small price rather. They have exchanged it for a small price. What an evil exchange! What an evil exchange. Okay. All right. And with that, we have actually completed our lessons, all 40 lessons. So thank you so much for sticking around for all of this time. Congratulations to you. May Allah give you the tawfiq to continue studying. And I ask you to please make dua for me and my family. If you have benefited for this in any way, please make dua for me and my family. Please forgive me for any sort of mistakes I may have made throughout these courses. I'm sure there are many mistakes. I ask for your forgiveness and for your just generosity. And please do make dua for me and my family. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope to see you elsewhere in the comments maybe or some other time inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.